I'm gonna ask you to act on this one as a part of the
We
budget.
can't, it's not
recommendation.
on the agenda.
So you've got budget items on here? Is that part of? So
Yep.
presentation, discussion on the 2026 budget and various budget sections including, and then consider appropriate motion for action. So this is one of the budget items, just was not included in the packet. If you wanna bring it back for a separate discussion, we certainly can do that, but I think you're covered under the agenda if you're gonna do it today.
Are we prepared to do this today? Mike, Cindy, Carl?
I don't know, if everybody can present everything that we need to know, I guess, and as long as, you know, we have all the information.
Yeah, I think you're legally covered, you know, to make that action as part of the overall budget contemplation.
Okay, do we have
keep
any
on rolling.
discussion?
Well, where does this fit into the budget? How does this fit into?
So it's a revenue, it's just a revenue item, but we don't have a way to really discern out how this is gonna go, in terms of total lease up. So I'd be throwing a dart at a dartboard if I hung a number on it. So this is like park rental fees is where it's gonna go.
And this was done, Kathy brought this in, and it's in consult with you guys, like, it sounded reasonable to you, these dollar amounts and. Yeah, because that's what we're really
So
talking
the
about.
dollar
Right.
amounts are really driven by dialogue with Zeke and Kathy and a little bit of Adam. So my fear is you put them on there and they sit down there and you don't get anybody that wants to be a taker on them a higher dollar rate. So I think you guys are we started Food and Funnel first at $0 in participation. We just asked people to come and be a part of what we were doing, and we did that for a year, and then the second year, I think we went to 25 or $50, but it wasn't a lot. And the idea was you kind of had to train the public and train the vendors.
The thing.
Yeah, how
I
we
got it.
wanted them to.
Yeah, I'm just curious because there are
Yep.
things like event and use and trash would, clean up things which would involve.
I would tell you that all of those ones that she set don't cover the time and cost. With
Yeah,
that
that was
said,
my concern.
with that said, you're not gonna cover the time and cost. So I keep pretty regular contact with your business owners, and you know what I haven't had in the last 12 months? I don't know how you guys feel when you go to the grocery store, but I haven't had any business owner go, I'm killing it right now.
Yeah,
I'm absolutely killing it. I got more business than I can stand. I don't know where I'm gonna go. I've got, hey, business is marginal. I had a business owner, that's gonna go unnamed, I'm gonna call him a successful business owner who shared, you know, not some successful times recently when I met with him yesterday. And some of the events that they participate in are losses for the year versus in past years, they were positives. So I very much feel like we're headed into a downturn. This very well may be a reprieve. Some of these came just from Kathy. She and I've had conversations about them. So for example, closing down a side street, event, barricades and trash. My position on that is that should be $0 a day. It's a public street. Yes, there's some energy and effort on our part to go, but if you look at what the businesses are earning as far as organizing, they're not really making a lot of money. This is just about bringing traffic to town. So I almost view it like advertising. The empty lot, the old bowling alley site, we've got a produce vendor that can make it on their own there. They're, I think, $850 for the year is how it pencils out. I think 500 for the day from a charge standpoint is probably too high for a 10 Club Park. And then there's 10 Club Park event, no electricity, trash, only $175 a day. Okay, what happens if you don't have a family reunion down there? Is that an event? We're gonna charge for that? Or, because there's no way to really organize that, they just go.
Right.
It's another thing, I got asked by a business, in the last week, would the village contemplate, facilitation of alcohol licensing? And Pat, you've had some conversations with another one we've talked about with that. There's some hoop jumping that we have to go through to make that happen. There's not a really good mechanism for it. But if we had alcohol licensing, yeah, sure, charge for it. Right now, the picnic license you have is going to the Lions Club, and for the Christmas event, I'm going from memory, the village brought in, Pat, help me, it's 22 grand in revenue.
For sure, yeah, it's
Yeah, somewhere right around there, right? I'm sorry, the event brought in 22 grand in revenue, but the village outlaid 18,000. So, the major operator of that event had a really great windfall that year in terms of income, but didn't have an offsetting expense, and the village bore the expense. So we are gonna talk a little bit about.
So basically, it
Christmas
sounds
stuff.
like what you're saying is that the village is kind of subsidizing this for the,
You're gonna need to.
get the business.
So, I'll give you more of a 30,000 foot view on, experience in Sister Bay. Everybody thinks Sister Bay is like this mecca, and there's always been money falling from the sky. Like, that wasn't the case. When I first started in Sister Bay, there was a refrigerator factory in the middle of downtown that was built in the 1930s. It was dilapidated. It had served some time as a YMCA, and then had been converted into like a strip mall kind of a thing. But it was a refrigerator factory. It got converted into a strip mall. It really was a challenge to get people to drive north of Fish Creek. I mean, you just couldn't get them. I'd stand out there on a sunset day and see 6 people, all of them senior citizens, staring at the sunset. You know, there was no traffic flowing downtown Sister Bay. And the way we got that going was there's 5 things you have to adjust. You've got to have public policies that facilitate growth and development. We've done that with our zoning code. You've got to have public infrastructure to support growth and development. We did that when we redid 2083 in downtown and Main Street, and we're getting ready to redo East Main Street. And that's going to be one of the topics of conversation is how do you want to invest for the future of the community? Public spaces that are vibrant and activated with programming, which is number 4. That's kind of what we're talking about here. If you don't have programming to actively drive people into an area, concerts, movies in the park, festivals, events, farmers markets, whatever that is, they're just not going to come, right? We have some passive programming down there, which is our ice rink and our play stream. Mike's working to do something with a curling setup this year, so maybe we can get a curling league going. But our first volley at this is just to put the marker down in the ice and see if we can get people to passively begin using before we try to organize. And then lastly, it's private investment in private spaces. It's the hardest one. I think, each community I've gone and interviewed in, I sit down with the board, and the board says, we want more places to dine and shop, lower taxes, and better roads. Like, okay, how are you gonna invest in it? The answer is always something like, well, there's grant money out there, or we really are looking for those investors. And I'm like, wrong. And it's a simple question back, and that's, does anybody love your kids more than you love your kids? If the answer is no, no one loves my kids more than I love my kids, then no one's gonna love your community more than the appointed leaders around this table, or the elected leaders, and the staff that you have are gonna love the community, which means we've got to invest in it. So to the point, anything we do to set a fee creates a barrier for people coming. If I had hotels knocking on my door to build a hotel in downtown, I wouldn't be having this conversation with you. I'd be saying, hey, we need to charge $1,000 a day. We eventually got to a point where we were charging $1,500 a day in Sister Bay for a wedding on the beach, and we limited it to 2 a year. That was it, because we didn't want brides hogging the beach. We wanted, kids and families down there. I would say, Kathy spent a lot of time thinking about this. Philosophically, she and I have a back and forth every time this comes up, and Kathy comes from a mindset of, we need to charge, we need to charge, we need to charge. And she's probably right. We probably do need to charge something for the guys' time to get some of these things done. But I don't have a single business that's down there killing it, and we don't have a good mechanism to price this adequately.
So if we accept it, or we make a motion to accept this as is, when do we get a chance to revisit this?
I think the first time I get told no by somebody, or Kathy gets told no by somebody, we need to bring it back for
Could be
conversation.
next month.
Okay,
Yeah, I
it
mean,
could be
it-
next
literally,
month.
it could be
I
next
don't know. So I'll give you 2 business owner examples. Scott, the Second Street stuff, who looks to do kind of antique rummage sales over there, and then Ryan Ross, who likes to set up on the big empty lot and run the flea market thing on some weekends. Ryan was just aghast that we would charge him $100 to use that lot, right? And he's like, oh my God, I just can't believe, right? And it's like, Ryan, you're totally taking over the lot. It's a public asset, you're getting to use it. Another example, it's not on here, but it needs to be talked about, is what about the land that the village owns out on 36 that Spanky's has effectively used as a giant parking lot? Or what about the land that's down here in front of Running Errands? You had 2 people submit for consideration for appointment to the village board because of this Running Errands thing. Are we gonna charge for use of that public land, or are we just gonna nail our downtown business owners for use of public land? Or are we gonna take the position of, we're here to support all the business community, we're not gonna charge for any of it, or some de minimis amount? This is public policy, this is for you guys. In my chair, it's about executing on the Vision Water for 2018 plan, and that means, getting people into the community to experience it so that we can bring in investors to make those multi-million-dollar investments. And You gotta crawl before you walk. These guys do a hell of a job
Yes, they do.
taking care of the park.
The one thing I don't see on here is, okay, we're charging all of this, but any analytics saying, okay, this is what it's gonna be forecasted or projected 26, 27, 28. I mean, what is, I mean, are we looking at $2,500? Are we looking at $25,000?
Hundreds, right? There is that. Look, your Chamber of Commerce recently pulled out from doing events. Balloon Fest lost this the 5 years preceding when I started in 2018. Sorry, 2017. Balloon Fest lost collectively $100,000 on the 5 years leading up to that. So they pulled the plug on that event. They brought it back. Had it at the high school for a couple of years. It made a little bit of money at the high school under high school management. Moved out to the Lions Club in Michigan and the town park. They made money 1 year, and I'm not sure what they did the second year they did it. Now that event's not going forward. It's just too weather dependent. I mean, a little bit of wind ruins that whole event. We don't have Waterford Celebrates, and we're getting ready to have Boo Fest. I put forward a proposal to the chamber and a couple of the nonprofits at the beginning of the year that involved a big, epic inflatable system. We put, 6 figures in the budget to buy this reusable piece of infrastructure, and they didn't feel like they could execute. So what you're going to get is a really reduced version of Boo Fest. We did buy an inflatable maze. And we have some other inflatables that we make available to our nonprofits, but we really should try to support our nonprofit community with these assets and then let them take it to where they're going. And here what we're saying is, yeah, we're gonna let you use the bouncy houses for free to help support your event, but by the way, it's $500, right? That doesn't compute.
Well, again, our whole idea was to build this up and then have, the businesses take some onus in there and take some responsibility. And like last year when we did the old Water for Christmas, that was very successful, except for the village.
Right.
And it continues, and so we're looking for redoing that a little with the fire department.
Yep.
So I'm kind of going into this, my only concern at this point would be, if we're gonna do it with the firehouse, and it looks like Rosie's and everyone's on board this, to at least do a smaller version of this as a fundraiser. Renting out the chalets in that day, that would be the only exception I would say. Leave that to the fire to do that for that day, and what's their vision on that. I'm fine with the other stuff, but if I made a motion, my motion would be to exclude those chalets on the day of the parade from rental. Until we have a
You want to put other
conversation.
vendors in them or just a different
I'll
rate?
just give Rosie a chance to see what, cause he could maybe get a little more money. Let's just figure out what we're gonna do on that day.
Roll with me for a minute, and this is where my head is at. I would strike closing down Side Street, that 100 a day, right? Leave that off, and let's quantify and bring back data for review next year and say, hey, how many times? Because the answer is, I think, twice. We've had 2 users twice on that rate.
And what does that cost us to do that anyway? I mean, we don't need the fire department there, we don't need the cops there,
No.
we don't need anything, all they do is close down the street and inconvenience a couple of people.
Drop some barricades. Yeah, 15 minutes to drop barricades.
Okay.
Right. Where it says Milwaukee and Maine, that's the lot's 150 a day. I mean, you've got a bread seller that's out there. I think at 150 a day, she stopped selling bread. At $5 a day, it's a hard get. $150 a day, she's got to bake how many loaves just to cover her rent. Where she's got beneath that 5 a day and 10 non-resident, that's fine. If you charge $5 to be there, it's almost not worth the headache to do the paperwork, right?
That was my question. Who is going to shepherd this inside?
Kathy and I, and sometimes Alyssa, Mike. I mean, we all kind of play a bit of a role.
How many
with this.
hours is that going to entail?
It's not a big tie-up. We want them to coordinate with us so they can make use of the banner poles for bigger events, and we try to have some standards around the designs of those reasonable at highway speeds. $150 a day. The only person you've got that wants to use it is Ryan Ross. So essentially, what you're saying is, hey, Ryan Ross, we'd like $150 a day to use that. I would tell you, no, right? I would strike that 150 a day. Let me ask another one. How about Scungillies, right on the corner, using it for picnics and dining out, or coming back to Matt Allen's use of parking areas out on other village-owned land. And that one I feel a little bit differently about, in that he underinvested in the parking lot. Pat, you wanna talk about that one at all?
Yeah, it's just another good fundraiser at this point. I mean, we've been, very generous with that,
Yeah.
that whole putting spankies up at village residents, so it's not unrealistic to say on our property make some money during that event. Because,
It's
that's-
our property.
It's our,
Parking for
it's our
Spunky
property,
Palooza.
right,
You
right.
would think there'd be a donation back, right?
You
Hey,
would.
here it is. I'm gonna say this one, I don't think he did real great this year with weather. I went by several times, I didn't see a whole lot of crowd out there compared to past years.
But this doesn't take out of the bottom line, this is just,
Yeah,
hey,
on top
parking, or
of-
$5 for
Yep,
parking, no one's
yep,
gonna,
yep.
it's not $5 less at Spanky's,
Yep.
it's just a chance to do a fundraiser and utilize the
Yep.
same stuff, it's not, thing.
Um,
But I'm gonna just say, I'm just a little more jaded as we go through here, and I'll just
Yeah.
tell, I've had businesses in 4 different communities, right?
Yep.
And I've never gotten a cent from them, right? And we are very, very generous with our businesses, so asking them for a nominal fee
Yep.
is necessary, because, and these are nominal fees. If we have to have realistic fees, and some of these things we do are tremendous, but we are extremely generous to our businesses, more than I put a community up that's more
Yep.
generous to our businesses, and it would be nice to get a little bit like, last year,
Yeah.
and, what we've talked about, a little bit,
So
back.
different uses for different things. This is gonna be a broader conversation you guys are gonna need to have at some point in the future, which is, if you look at how Milwaukee County and City of Milwaukee use public property, they do ground leases with all specialty uses. So for example, the Milwaukee Sailing Center, it has a ground lease with the City of Milwaukee for use of the slips and harbor, as well as the grounds that are there. And they pay the City of Milwaukee for that. It's not a gimme. We've had baseball taken at Woodford Park since the 1950s. I would love it if the village put my hobby somewhere. And Mike, I'm sure, would love it if the village put his hobby somewhere. And how about all the basketball players, and where does their hobby go? So my point is, like, we don't treat everybody the same. And that really has to do with, like, historical legacy use of these spaces. It's not a conversation for today, it's a conversation for some point in the future, that we need to talk about who uses what space and how and in what ways. But just to dial back on the sheet, 10 Club Park event with electric use and trash, $500 a day, and then 10 Club Park event, no electric, trash only. I'd ask to strike both of those and change that to a food truck vendor. So a single food truck vendor, and you guys pick a number that you think is fair on a per day rate for that. Is that $50 a day? Is that $100 a day? We could have had vendors over there all summer, right? There's 40 to 60 moms and kids running around that play stream all summer long. We could have sold a gazillion ice cream cones and shaved ices and cups of coffee. We just didn't monetize that park effectively, and I think we can do a better job with
Why
that.
didn't that happen?
In part, we wanted to see just how the park was used and what was going on, and in part, the Lions Club really needed to dial in on what they were doing. So when we say we're going to need to bring back around for conversation who uses our facilities, when I met with the Lions Club, I want to say 4 years ago, and we really were starting to build the ice rink, the agreement was, and it was a handshake, we didn't write it down anywhere, it was, hey, we're gonna try, and try was an operative word, and I'm talking about them, they were gonna try to raise enough money to offset our cost of running that ice rink. Because we gave them the skates and we gave them the concessions. And I would tell you at this point, I'm not ready to upend that relationship. However, they, somewhere between that day and sometime later on their own said, hey, we're gonna come up with 20% as a donation back. It does not offset the cost of operating that, and so you have to think long-term about what you're doing. We did insert a rec director into the budget when Kathy Bloom retires. I think that's the time for us to talk about who's handling concessions, who's handling skate rental, and really hiring a rec director type position to manage the activities in that park. We don't have that in-house capability right now. Kathy has got a plate full doing other things, and it's, I can't imagine Kathy playing soccer with kids, right? That's just not where she's at in life. So if you guys are amenable to, again, I would replace 10 Club Park event with electric and, event no electric, trash only with a per day vendor fee and whatever number you guys think's appropriate there to bring in a food truck and sell their wares.
And the vendor would just pay us a fee for that day.
Yeah.
How much do they use in electricity? I mean, would you just, I
Not a
mean,
lot.
I have no
So,
idea.
for-
When they start plugging the big things in, is that used like
So I was looking
$100
like-
a day or?
No, it's less than $2.
Yeah.
It's a de minimis amount, Carl.
Oh, okay.
The bigger thing is, so I'll talk about their end of money and what it looks like, and that's, we keep records on all the food trucks. Those are, under Wisconsin law, protected trade secrets. We're not gonna release their individual sales numbers, so there's some statute stuff around that. What I will speak is in general, and the general is, as long as it is a good weather day, we do about $12,000 in 3 hours between the 6 food trucks that are there.
How much do they pay now to use them? Anything?
Hang on a
Do
second.
the food trucks pay us anything now?
They pay, $250 for a seat, it depends on their.
Not enough. We're gonna look at reprogramming food trucks this coming season, and we're working on that up at Village Hall.
That's only during the Fun and Food and
Right.
First. Right now, there's no other food truck rentals during the, unless it's part of an event.
I think it's kind of based on sales, 'cause some of the smaller trucks, they have to charge less than some of the bigger vendors. So I think Kathy bases a lot on sales, but she offset the budget for that event by those rental fees. It actually was pretty, best year yet. That's kind of, we have a good product there. So there's some opportunity for charging or whatever, if that's what you want to do.
Well, do you think it'd be reasonable to charge each of the vendors in the food trucks $200 a day? I mean, is that about a reasonable?
Depends on the vendor. Some
so-
shrimp will never make that kind of money.
Yeah, so different vendors have different price points, they sell at different rates. Kathy's talked about charging different rates at Food and Funnel First, and I agree. So when we bring in a popcorn vendor, or a shaved ice cone vendor, or
Yeah.
a dessert vendor,
I see
they're
what you're saying.
lucky to do $600 for the event. But when we bring in, say, a barbecue truck, they might do $2,500, right? It's different sales rates. So, I'm gonna throw a number out, and I think it's just a starting point. I think we need to push it up. So let's go with $35 a day, to go down there. If you guys wanna go higher than that, it wouldn't take much to twist my arm on that. I'm just kicking out an initial, let's get some money coming in for it, and revisit it frequently and say, hey, we think we can get more out of this. The first step will be get some vendors that actually will commit to go down there and test it. That's the hard part, is you gotta convince them there's money to be made down there. On Mondays for 3 hours all day long, but if they put that truck down there for an hour before Food and Funnel First, my guess is they're gonna do less than $100 in sales for the hour, which is not worth their time to be there.
Has the village ever thought about hiring someone seasonally
Yes,
in the concessions, especially with the kids?
my
in Town Club Park?
planned recommendation for you guys is, again, this really hinges on Kathy's retirement. When she retires, it's gonna free up wages that are presently allocated into court and general duties, for us to look at bringing somebody. When I ran the concession stand in Sister Bay, we were open way less than our concession stand is open, and our customer volume was way less. Between broom ball, concession sales, and skate rentals, we picked up about $16,000 a year just during the skate season, not counting the other times. I mean, I think, Mike, that place you and I went and toured down in Illinois, they were selling toasted sub sandwiches. You could get an old fashioned or mixed drink on the golf course we visited, and they were doing $350K a year out of the exact same building that we have. We went and toured it before, so I think we can either look at bringing in a contract operator that's open on a more regular basis. We can look at issuing an alcohol license, to that entity, or we can look at doing it in-house and capturing that profit ourselves. And I'm certainly, I think staff is open all the way around. We just need to get to that point.
And Lions could take care of what they're doing right now, the winter concessions. and
We
stay
could
rentals.
flip it however we wanna flip it. We could do a summer, winter, or a spring, summer, fall, and then flip it over to winter for Lions Club, or we could keep it under contract the whole time and just have Lions come in for special events like Mondays and give them the other building they had back that they operated out of for the first 5 years.
Just based on how busy it is there during the summer hours,
Yeah.
I mean,
We're losing money.
someone would do very well at that. We have the concession
I-
stand, then we have all the infrastructure.
So let me,
We need to offer some stuff.
let me
out there.
ask a question of you, Pat. Is that one that it's worthwhile for us to accelerate this year, or do we wanna hang until Kathy retires
I personally like to look at it this year. I
and
mean,
accelerate it?
and capture it and see what we have there.
Yeah.
Just kick it around, we got all winter to do it.
So, that's, if we can dispense with this piece of the budget discussion, then let's go back and talk about that within the broader budget, if you're right, Mr. Chairman.
I'm fine with that.
We'd have time to look at it, you think, Fred, over the winter? And-
Yeah, it's,
and if-
Yep. So,